Welcome, everybody, to Authorsphere. I'm your host, Dan Alatorre, and joining me today is my friend, USA Today bestselling author Jenifer Ruff. Jenifer has written a number of bestselling books. I don't know how many you're up to now, about 16 or 20 or 30 books you've written now?
14.
14, getting there. So welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we used to work together a little bit, editing and being beta readers and critique partners and whatnot for each other. And then I saw you most recently hopping around on TikTok. So maybe we can make a snippet of this and post it on TikTok, and certainly tell your followers, your hordes of followers on TikTok, that you appeared on a podcast. But what drew you to TikTok?
I've been meaning to get on TikTok for 2 years. Like, it's been on my to-do list, literally on my to-do list, like every month, do TikTok. And I just keep pushing it on the agenda. And I didn't want to do it because, there's a learning curve, and I thought it's not my personality and I'm too old. So many reasons not to do it. But I started to really feel like a loser when you feel like you should do something and you're just not doing it. So finally I did it, and the shocker was that it's really fun. Like, don't you think?
Oh, it's fun. It's addictive.
It's really fun.
You know what? So you have 3 sons, is it?
Yes.
How old is your youngest now? Is he high school or is he?
No, my youngest is a sophomore in college. My youngest. Yeah.
So what got me was my 12-year-old daughter was playing on it. And she was having a great time doing all little dances and all that crap. So I thought, like you, I'm too old for that nonsense. So literally about close to 2 years ago, because I think it was August, so 1.5 years maybe, but probably 2 years ago, she was all over that thing. And she was like, you should do it, you should do it. Well, she wanted me to open an account, a TikTok account, so that when she would do a dance video, she could come down and go on my account and like her video. So it would get like
smart.
Someone liking it.
Smart thing to do.
But we restricted her to where it's private, so only people we actually know can follow her and all that. So anyhow, so that happens in August of how many years ago, and I do nothing with it at all. And then in January, so January of this year. So let's say I've been aware of TikTok for like a little more than a year. January of this year, my wife comes to me and says, you should do some stuff on there. It'll help promote your books. And I was like, I don't know how that's going to sell any books, but let me check it out. So for 2 weeks, I do nothing but I don't make any content. I just look at content for like 2 weeks. And next thing I know, I'm watching an hour a night. I put on a TV show or something to relax after the day, and I'm ignoring the TV show and I'm looking at all these funny videos. Sometimes it's puppies, sometimes it's people who fall while they're water skiing, sometimes it's sharks swimming up to the camera of this crazy guy. One of the ones I like best, this lady makes she's like a deep diver, like a free diver, and she can blow what is it called, like a water ring. I don't know if that's what it's called. It's like a bubble, so she's underwater. It's like a ring, and dolphins do it, and she can do it, and a lot of other people can do it. It's probably like blowing a smoke ring with a cigarette, okay? But she does it with bubbles. And I was just like, oh, I want to learn how to do that. But so like I said, next thing you know, I'm on it an hour a night. And then I said, okay. So after a couple of weeks that I was like, okay, I need to see where do my talents for this medium lie? And I just posted, at first I just posted a bunch of just content at all, so that if somebody liked one and came to the thing, there was other stuff for them to see. And then I kind of fell into a groove of hey, mystery lovers, what do you think about this? Like, look at this scenic landscape, and your author is thinking, that's where they buried the bodies, that kind of stuff. I know, and that's kind of, I was doing that for a while. That was kind of like my thing. Yours is a little different though. You talk a little bit about you, a little bit about like you were talking about bad reviews the other day.
Well, I'm just getting started, so I'm kind of in the mode of throw it all out there and see what works and see what I enjoy the most. And so I'm definitely in my experimenting phase. But I took a TikTok course. Mark Dawson added the TikTok modules.
I haven't read that one yet.
So that's what kind of gave me, what I needed to get started. I didn't have to figure out the app. It says like, here's the effects that authors need. Like here are the things that authors do. And then it tells you to spend a few days kind of training your feed to show you only books and authory type of things. So I kind of went in, you know, as an author, trying to connect with other authors and other readers. And anytime that I stray from that, then my feed, like if I start just watching things that like I really enjoy, my feed becomes all talking dogs and things like that, because that's what I love. So I have to be careful not to spend too much time watching the talking dogs, or all of my book stuff disappears. But I'm still just kind of figuring out how it works.
About that. So I did the same thing. I was just doing whatever. If there was a new effect, like you would turn into a dinosaur, I was like, oh, cool, I'll turn into a dinosaur. And so part of me says, this is me, this is what I like. So if somebody comes to here, they're learning about me. But as a business, that's okay to have a little of that, but you also got to have something about your books. And that's where I kind of strayed into, like I did a lot of videos with these books behind me sitting here at my desk, right? So it's kind of like, by the way, see the books? Or I did, you know, here's what the mystery author sees when he goes to a party. It's like 8,000 or 80 people trying to poison your drink or whatever, right? So I did those. And then I created a second account. I think it's called Dan Alatorre 2. And I don't really have any followers. I think my daughter is my only follower on that one. And that's the one where I log into that one and I watch dogs and sharks and all that. And I'm like,
oh, that was smart.
Dan Alatorre author, and they have different pictures. So, you know, the author picture where I'm kind of like this in my living room or whatever, that's the one on my author account. And the other one is a picture of me and my daughter. So
that was smart. That's the way to do it.
I figured it out after 7 months, right? So, you know, you're still ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. It's definitely fun. I can see how you would be really good at it, because you're, you know, quick. And I haven't watched all of your videos, not even close to it, but there was one that I just found very endearing. And I think it was a recent one, and it started out and you were going for a walk, and, you know, ended up being about mystery thrillers, but you said something like, I know you're all wondering when I'm going to be back at my desk and take a shower, but you know, this is me. And so it was just so authentic that, you know, it really made me smile. And so I think that works. I think people connect to that. And then you went on to talk about, you were trying to figure out, you know, a new character or a conflict in your book, but the way you started with that one, it was just so authentic. It really resonated with me. I loved it.
Well, you know what happens when you're working out? Like, I know you probably still listen to podcasts and audiobooks and stuff when you're working out, so your brain is engaged. But if you're just out there on the street not doing that, you're thinking about maybe your work or your day, and then the ideas kind of can come to you about to resolve some problem you're working on in your book, right? So I'll put on a podcast, usually comedians, like two comedians just talking and being silly with each other, which is what I like. That helps me relax. But then I can tune out because it's not important. I can tune out, and half the time I'm out there walking and running and doing whatever, which, by the way, that recent heat wave, there's no sidewalks on my street. So it's pavement. And you know how pavement just radiates that heat back up at you? Florida, August, 97 degrees. It's like a freaking oven. You go out there, I'm sweating before I even get to the street. Walk down my driveway, I'm sweating, I'm dripping. And then I'll get some funny idea about, like, the telephone pole is smoking. Like, the hell is going on with the telephone pole? Just sitting there smoking. It's 97 degrees, not that hot. So I'm like, well, I don't know. So I'll make a TikTok out of it. Maybe somebody else knows. And of course, nobody else knows. So part of it is
those random things that seem to go over well, I think, you know, random things.
That's the stuff I like, but it needs to be a mix. Like if I go to somebody's TikTok, there's this real estate attorney that I follow, Martinez Law. She's here in like North Tampa, Lutz area, which is where I live. And she's got her own law practice. She's relatively young, married, good looking woman. And sometimes she talks about a hard day at work where some client was giving her a hard time, right? And so it's funny because of that. Another time she's talking about why you should form an LLC to buy investment properties. It's like, okay. But she makes that interesting too. I mean, I learned a little bit about LLCs. But if it was all LLCs talk, I wouldn't watch it. And if it was all, you know, just like a audio where you're like holding the phone away from your face, and the caption says something like, a client who wouldn't listen and now is all upset or something like that, right? So it's just kind of funny. If it was all that, it probably wouldn't work for her business. So I think there's some balance. I don't know what that mix of business is. So I try to do that. And because I'm kind of a lighthearted person normally, my stuff's kind of sarcastic or try to be witty or funny or whatever. And which is not what my books are. So I really feel like I'm doing the wrong thing when I do that, because
I
it's
know
not
it's
going to.
very hard when you're a mystery thriller author. It's really hard to know, like, can I be smiling and light? I mean, my personality is just super happy and positive, and like I'm always smiling. And I think sometimes when I'm being me, I'm not giving off the vibe of my books at all, because they're dark and people die. And so, oh, that's another thing on TikTok. For a mystery thriller author, you
All right.
can't say die, murder, kill. I mean,
Suicide. There's all
that's
kinds
so
of.
tough.
You know
That's
what
like
though? I think some of that is, what do you call it? Like, not a folk tale. What are those things called? I
a
think,
myth.
I think some of it is because I have used. Supposedly you can't show weapons. Like I got a sword right there, right?
Yeah.
I've had
But
that
that
on.
just means you haven't got caught yet. So
Could be. Could be.
I've had enough people tell me like what they got in trouble for. And very often it was swords or knives. If they weren't using the knife to chop vegetables, if they were even holding it and implying that, in violence, they got entire accounts shut down. So I think it's kind of like the affiliate link, using your affiliate link for ads. Some people get away with it for 5 years, and some people get caught like the first week. And so, I'm being really careful, because this is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And I'm sure that there are good things of starting over. You know what you're doing, but I don't want to have to start over if I don't have
Well,
to.
somebody
So
said one time that the price of becoming an expert is something is starting out and being a fool at it, something like that. Like nobody starts out at something the expert. You have to learn, and to learn means you start out with not knowing anything. So, and
And
it's
that's pretty true, because you know what? Sometimes I look at some people's profiles and they only have maybe 20 things and all of them have like a million likes. And then I think, okay, maybe they turned off all their duds. You can mark them to private. You see what all your duds are and you just get rid of those, turn them all to private. That could be a thing. And so it looks like they just nailed it the first try, but like anything else, that could be deceptive.
I have heard, so like there are these people who are like social media consultants, and there was one I was following, and she gave out all kinds of good tips, just things like when you're starting out, things you wouldn't think. It's like, oh, okay, good, I'll make sure I don't make that mistake, kind of thing. And so she had a thing for like $5. She would look at your profile and some of your videos or something. So I was like, $5, go for it. And obviously, it was a way for her to get clients. If you like this, maybe buy a bigger package or whatever. But it also let her. The deal was for $5, she'd give you some information, but she would use her analysis of your profile on her as a TikTok to show, like, so she would do me and show it to people like you to say, you should pay my whatever the regular fee is, not the $5, right, for one of these. And so one of the things she told me was, don't go through and delete your non-performing videos, because A, you never know which one is going to click. It might be 6 months from now and all of a sudden that one's taken off. And B, something about TikTok wants content, so it punishes you if you delete content.
Yeah, my course said that too. It said, don't ever delete anything,
Makes sense.
but you can mark it to private. And that way you can always unprivate it and show it to everybody. And I've had, especially when I was getting started, I screwed up several times, like where I posted something that wasn't ready. It had, captions that were coming on whenever. And I posted things to the stories by mistake. And
No,
so
I've done
I
that.
was
Yeah.
so lucky. I take that course and I remember specifically, they were like, mark it to private and it's okay. And
Well,
so
that's a good
I
tip.
didn't have to like scramble and freak out. Like I just marked it to private right away. So
You
that's
see,
a good
that my
option.
early content was like a bunch of memes, like author-oriented memes. So it was kind of a postcard kind of thing. So it really wasn't what TikTok is for. And I think I
Yeah.
posted 20 of those that were like my favorite author memes, just so that if somebody went to there, there'd be other things for them to look at, except for the one video that I actually made, right? And then maybe every week I made a video. And then they said something like, whatever you post, do it on a recurring basis. So if you can post a video a day, do one a day, but make sure you do it every day. If you can only do it 5 days in a row and you can't do it the next 5 days, then do it every other day and get 10 days out of it and then stay on that or whatever. And they said, so like post a video and then go and watch and like and comment on 10 other people's videos that you like. And of course it should be symbiotic stuff. So if I'm wanting authors and readers, I need to be liking, commenting on other authors, theoretically other readers. So I found lots of book reviewer TikTok people. I don't know what they're actually called, reviewers of TikTok or something. And I'm friends with a handful of them. And I'd send them a book and they'd review the book and they'd hold it up because, they like to hold up the book.
Yeah.
And that was fun. And
well, you know what's good about that? And this is one of the main reasons I joined TikTok. My children, I kept mentioning to my children that authors are having good success on TikTok. And I know it's romance authors, it's fantasy authors. They're doing really well. But my kids kept saying like, no one on TikTok cares about books because their feeds were different. They didn't know anything about this book talk community. But I have seen a lot of conflicting advice from, content creators that are saying exactly what you said, like you've got to do like the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your stuff is like entertaining or informational or just fun. And then 20% is like, and here's my book. And I've seen conflicting advice from some author groups on TikTok, like Authors of TikTok and TikTok for Authors that are doing really well with that platform. And they're like, all I post is those book flip videos with like quotes. They're like, that's all I do now. That's all I do. I do that every day. And some of them only have a few books. So they're doing like the same book flips every day. And if you look at their profiles, that's all they've got. There's nothing else. And they went from like no sales to being like Kindle All-Stars. So I still think there isn't a right or wrong. Like what works for one person in one genre, might not work for someone else. And so you just have to kind of enjoy it.
As I have said many times, when it comes to marketing, I am not any source to go to because I have no idea what's effective in marketing, right?
Well,
So I just figured, go ahead.
So most of my sales come from my Facebook ads, and it's been that way for about 2 years now.
Same here.
And I think there's a wonderful audience on Facebook, but I can see in my statistics, I can see that it's a much older audience. It's much older, 65 and up. And so they are great. That's like retired people. They're great at buying books, reading books, but that is not the demographic that is then going to flip their camera around and make a video and say, look what I read today.
Right.
That is the younger generation of people like your daughter and my sons who grew up with like, especially girls that are cute. And they're like, here's what I ate. Here's what I read. Here's my hat. And so that's such a good community because if one of them reads your book, that could just, they're sharing it with the world. So
yeah, somebody said, nobody is more enthusiastic about anything than young teenage girls. They get psyched up about it. They tell all their friends go crazy, and boom, it blows up the market.
Yeah,
but they're not my audience, so.
Why would you say that? Why wouldn't I read mysteries and thrillers when I was that age? I read Stephen King. I read Dean Koontz. That's not true. They could be your audience.
I don't mean that there aren't people that age who read what we write. It's just not the majority of people who my demographics are not that. The bulk of my sales are not the teenagers.
Yeah, but that might be just because teenagers are not on Facebook, and so they haven't found you yet. That's what I'm going with it. Like this is an opportunity to find young people.
That's part of why I got on TikTok. And what I specifically look for is what we were just talking about. Some of those, they tend to be girls because there's not that many guy readers on TikTok. Fellas, pick up a book. So as one of them likes something or whatever, you see who interacts with your video, then I'll if they're following me, then I'll try to follow them, or I'll watch some of their videos and say, hey, you look like you're having fun. What kind of genres do you like to read? And if they say anything close to anything I write, then I'm like, how about I send you a book? If you like it, do a TikTok of it. And they're like, yeah, sure, awesome, And I'd say maybe 50% of the time, I haven't done it that many times. I'd say about 50% of the time they've liked the book and done a TikTok about it. Typically they were 25 to 35 years old, but I have very few, like 6. I feel like a creepy guy at a playground stalking these teenage girls, but I have a few, like 6 maybe, who are of that younger demographic. It'd be great to be able to sell a book too, because then you got a ton of books to sell. and they can be a customer for the next 60 years,
Yeah. One thing that's interesting to me is how many authors are on TikTok who have one book or maybe haven't even written a book yet, and they're out there talking about their book. And I'm like, good for you. Because I mean, when I was writing my first book, like, well, there wasn't even a platform to do that, but just to have that confidence. And it also should make someone like you and I say, okay, we've written a lot of books. We've been doing this for a while. I mean, you have so many books, you have box sets, you have anthologies, we've got stuff to talk about. So I feel like good for them. And it also makes me think like I have value here because, we've been doing this for years. So
well, there's definitely value. The problem is when I used to have a blog, I would get like 65,000 views a year on my blog, right? Those were good numbers back then. And it was a lot of other authors who were starting out. And my philosophy was, hey, whatever I'll learn, I'll pass on to you. I might be only one rung higher on the ladder than you are, but whatever I'm learning there, I'll share here. And that's why it was that way. And I thought, well, that's not really selling me a lot of books. It was getting me lots of beta readers and a handful of fans and stuff. But it really wasn't the market I thought I should be pitching to, right? So I was always a little nervous about having my TikToks be, here's what you do about a bad review, which I did off of yours the other day, right? But here's the opposite of that, which is writers are readers. So they do tend to read a lot. They just tend to also be shy introverts, so they don't go on social media and say anything about it. So,
but I'm a busy author, and I have bought several books now since being on TikTok that other people were recommending, and other author books. I have yet to buy a fantasy book, even though that I just keep seeing them again and again, and it's just not my thing yet. But maybe. But one thing is neat is that there was an author on there. She was one of the first people that like I followed, and she followed me back. Her name is Stacy Jones. And so I thought she was doing a good job. She was about my age. So I was thinking, okay, and I think she had taken the same course I did. So I saw her in one of the like Facebook pages, and I was paying attention to her posts. And then one day I got her newsletter. So I didn't think I knew who she was. I got her newsletter. So I had not connected that name, even though I'd been getting her newsletter. And then I realized I've read 2 of her books. She has maybe 20 or so mystery thrillers, and she was a forensic consultant in the past. So she's got the background for this. And it took me weeks of watching her videos before I realized I've read 2 of her books. And I thought, how weird that can happen to us, that like someone might have read some of your books.
How did you not?
Because I read a ton of books, and I
No. So you were following her on TikTok. You knew she was an author when you were following her on TikTok?
Yeah.
You just didn't know she was the author. So you're getting a newsletter from her, but you get a lot of those too, right?
Yeah, I get a lot of them, and I just didn't connect the name. Now, actually, that is an interesting point, because if her newsletter had her face on it, like you and I both have our face, if she had her face on there and it matched what I was seeing, I might have connected it right away. But, I read so many books, especially indie author books. I download everything from BookBub every day. And my Kindle is so full of stuff. So it took me so long to connect that I already had a connection with this person. And so I think that's why the face stuff is important. I think it's important to have your face on your website, on your books, on your TikTok.
But like the same image, to me, it's the same image everywhere, right? So it's like I said, that picture of me with my arms folded in the living room over here, which of course, it's right there.
The one that Allison and I both said, that one.
Yeah, maybe.
Remember that? That's a good one.
It was like that's what I use on everything, right? And the reason why is so that when you see that, you're supposed to say, I know that guy. And it's at the very beginning of every one of my newsletters, the same image, and it's on all the backs of my books, and it's on my website, and honestly, I don't know how old that picture is now. It's like maybe 4 or 5 years old, maybe. I mean, I don't have the gray hair in that picture that I do now, but it's like Dear Abby. You remember who Dear Abby was in the newspapers when we were a kid? She was an advice columnist. So she had this horrible picture. She looked like one of the Dorsey sisters from 1945. And it turns out, because we'd get the newspaper, and I don't know how often she was in it, once a week or something. My mom would get the newspaper and she'd read Dear Abby. Sometimes there was something funny in it, and always had that little picture. Come to find out, Dear Abby was like 90 years old or something back when I was a kid. And I was like, what? That's false advertising to have that little picture of her when she was, I don't know, in her 20s or whatever, which was still a picture from 1945. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
it dawned on me, it's like, no, as soon as you saw that picture, you knew that's Dear Abby. So it was
yeah,
branding like Coca-Cola or Ford or anything else, like branding,
yeah.
logo. So that's why, even though I look a little different, or I'm, I wouldn't say I'm any taller or shorter, I'm probably got the same amount of hair, and it probably has the same amount of gray in it. It's just the beard that's gray. All this comes in gray. I don't know why. When it gets too gray, like you probably can't tell. This is sun shining on it, so it's all white right here. But when the sun's not shining on it, it's not. So that's why I shave it off every couple days, because it's like, too much gray. But that's why I use that same picture all the time, because I want
It's
people to
smart.
connect. And you
Yeah,
pretty much do the same thing, right?
yeah. I have the same picture. Yeah, I use a lot. I use it everywhere where I upload the picture. That's the picture I use. So there's a lot of other
So
pictures of
that's
me
the
out there,
picture on
but
your TikTok too. And your icon picture is that?
yeah,
Because I'm thinking you
yeah.
should have made it one with somebody in a workout shirt and a ball cap, because that's all you ever really wear is that stuff.
I've got some without hats, but yeah, I know. But
Maybe we
so I
can
walk the dogs
Photoshop
in
a
the
hat
morning.
onto that picture of you.
I know. I wear a hat every day. I walk the dogs in the morning with a hat. So then you've got hat head. And also I don't color my hair. I have never colored my hair in my whole life. So,
Me either.
there's just a lot of gray that I don't hate, but I don't love. And so the hat just
Me
works.
either. I have
Some people-
never colored your hair my whole life, and I just feel like it's not necessary. One time, this is like 10 years ago, somebody asked me if I colored my hair. I'm like, who would color their hair this color? It's just like dark brown. And it was a guy, he goes, now again, this was not when I was growing a gray beard, right? He had all gray hair. He had a gray beard, a gray mustache, like silvery, like salt and pepper, but a lot of salt.
Yeah.
And he was a salesman that I had hired. And he showed me a picture of him. Now, the guy I knew didn't have a beard or mustache and had dark brown hair, right? He colored his hair when he started going to interviews, because the gray hair was an impediment. People thought he was
Yeah.
too old and wouldn't
Yeah.
learn
Yeah.
and whatever. So he colored it for that reason. I was like, oh, and
I love silver hair. I absolutely, when my hair is silver, then I'll be thrilled. Right now, it's just kind of like brown, gray. It's kind of doing its own thing, but silver looks good. I think,
I want to
especially.
get the silver here, like, this patch, like on the sides kind of thing. But right now I've got, um, it's like when I get a haircut, if I lift my hair up, it looks like it's all gray underneath. I don't really know how that works because the hair is growing. But this here, and you can't tell, but this is like all gray. This is just stubble,
Yeah.
right? But it's all gray. The mustache was no gray, and there's like no gray like here, but this front, especially like right there, it's all gray. So it's like, I guess eventually it'll work its way around, but
Yeah.
I don't really know how that works.
So, hey, I saw you have two books coming out in December. One in
Yeah,
your Jet Thacker series, which I haven't read any of those yet.
no one has.
I've read all your others, but that series I think just came out so fast. I have missed those. And then you have one in the Double Blind series too, and they're coming out in November. And I
Yeah.
know you, and I know that you can write really well with a lot of pressure and fast. So, have you written those books yet?
No, not a word.
Oh my God, Dan, can I tell you, this is how you and I are so different. So I just
Wait,
put
wait,
a
wait.
book.
Tell the audience, your heart is like beating 100 miles an hour right now when I said
Just,
no, not a word.
yeah,
I
I
was like,
can't
2
even.
books, 4 months, 3.5
No, so
months.
this is how we are different. I just put a book up for pre-order yesterday. I
Oh, is
put it
that
up for,
the one that's April of 23? Oh, what happened? You froze up. No, did we lose you? Uh-oh. Hold on. Let's see if we can get her back. Well, shoot, we may have to end the call and start over because Jenifer froze up. I don't think it's on my end because hey, comma, you froze up, period. Try to get back in, log out and get back in. And if that doesn't work, I'll send you a new link. Texting Jenifer to let her know. Normally, if something freezes, it unfreezes by now. Yep, we lost her. Now let's see if we get her back. Hey, that's the pitfalls of Live podcast here, folks. We don't edit. And she was just in the middle of promoting my books for me. So what a time for it to cut out. All right, let's see if we can get her back here. Let's see here. Is my message delivered? Message delivered. So she's going to try to log back in. It should work with the old link. Participants, well, that's just me. Yeah, we might have to stop this and start a second one. And if we do that, it'll, because it's video, I just have to load it as a whole entity. I'll just, I'll have these 2 episodes be just back to back on the podcast. So this one would theoretically end, and then the other one would just be the next episode, but they'd be back to back posted like the same day and all that. So. All right, give me 1 more minute to see if we can get things to work here. Nothing yet. Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. We, no, not getting anything. All right, I'll go ahead and end this one, and then there'll be a follow-up right after this.